Hey folks, I thought I would just quickly jump in with a little video here. Let me clear my throat. I recorded a little video just for friends and stuff on WhatsApp just a few hours ago. This was around about, I think it was about 5:15 this afternoon, and just been watching the news, of course, and we know there are issues with the Prime Minister. Now, at the time that I made the recording earlier on, I just sent it to friends and stuff. You know, the Prime Minister was in hospital, but his condition hadn't yet deteriorated. It has since deteriorated since then. And what I'm going to do is this section here is going to go ahead of the recording that I made in the afternoon, which you'll see the lighting will change because it was done in daylight. It's the evening now. I think it's, what time is it? Yeah, it's now exactly 9 o'clock. The news is actually on the TV as I speak. But look, I'm going to get straight into it. This is a really tricky situation for Boris when we look at the astrology. Now, as you know, I specialize in global astrology, as you will see with my earlier videos, and I'll be adding more on Wednesday, which is my official load up day. But because the situation is moving so quickly, I feel like I need to kind of get this up now so people can really understand what's going on. Now, I just did a quick sketch today. In fact, let me just get the different bits of paper out here. This is a super quick sketch. I'll put that up here. This is Boris Johnson's chart. Now, you would see in my other videos that I would do, I would normally do something that was a lot more kind of slick and stuff, like you can see like in the background some of the nicer work that I've done, but it wasn't the point. The point was just to find out exactly what's going on. Now, in my earlier videos you would see that I've referred to this coronavirus as the Gemini disease. Why? Because Gemini rules the hands, it rules the upper lungs in particular, and it also rules people getting close together, networking, basically rubbing shoulders, traveling around the world. And as we can see, that has all been restricted. Also as well, in my research so far, when I've looked at countries that are most closely affected by the coronavirus, that if they've, the main problem has been the natal Mercury, the condition of Mercury at the time that that nation was born. Now, this is kind of borne out when I look at the chart of the United States, when we look at Spain, when we look at, at Italy, which is a Gemini nation. They have a Gemini ascendant, and to a moderate extent, the UK. Now, what's important to mention here is that Boris Johnson, under Vedic astrology, is a Virgo ascendant. That means he is ruled by Mercury, because Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. Now, Virgo is a sign of health, yes? Virgo, the first house is also the body. So if we look here, we see here, this is Boris Johnson's first house. That represents the body. It is in Virgo. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, as I said, and which also rules Gemini. So basically, Mercury is in charge of Boris Johnson's body right now, but it's also one of the main things that are afflicted by the coronavirus. But also on top of that, there are different factors going on. Now, we have this grand stellium that is happening at the moment all over the world. So wherever Capricorn is, I'm calling the hot box. This is where all of the action is happening. And this thing that we have happening happens maybe once every 1,000 years or so. Sometimes 700, you know, it varies depending. But this is very significant. This is happening in Boris's fifth house. But what's important, when you look at these lines, you see this drishti. So Saturn is aspecting the 7th house. It's aspecting the 11th house, but it's also aspecting the 2nd house, where the moon is. Why is this significant? Because unfortunately in Vedic astrology, certain houses sort of take us out of here, basically. And those are the 2nd house and the 7th house. Now the 8th house is also a tricky house, which is this one here, where Boris has his Jupiter, and it's also being aspected by Mars, which is the 8th house lord. So he's the lord of that house, and Mars is the 8th lord with the 1st house lord in the 9th house. Now the 9th house is also to do with politics. It's to do with philosophy, ideology, belief. This is obviously what has given Boris his great gifts. But when you have the 8th house lord with the 1st house lord, that is very tricky. On top of that, Boris Johnson is in what is called a Mercury Mahadasha. So that means he's basically, Mercury is the planet in control of his life. And it's like a car. So he's in the car of Mercury. And then there's something which is called the sub-period, which is when essentially another planet is in control, and it's like it becomes the driver of that car. Now for Boris, that is planet Venus. Planet Venus. Got the little glyph here. Not so easy to see. But Venus is a very important planet because it is now the driver of that car. Now in Boris's chart, his Venus is very afflicted. Now this shouldn't surprise anyone. Venus is the planet of relationships. We know he's had lots of issues with relationships. However, Venus is with Rahu, which is the north node of the moon. The axis that the world is in right now, as I've done in my explainer videos before, is that we're now in the axis of fate, where Rahu and Sagittarius are in Gemini. When Boris was born, he was born in that axis. So he's having what is called a nodal return. And it has become exact because here, I've written here, 8 degrees. Yeah. 8 degrees. At the moment by transit, Rahu is at 8 degrees. He's having an exact nodal return. And the nodes are the points of destiny. The nodes are actually essentially what has caused the pandemic throughout the whole of the world. And Boris is having that nodal return in his chart right now in the sign of Gemini. So this is really... this is a little bit scary, to be honest. This is very, very significant. So when one takes all of these factors together, I'll stitch this video on front of the one that I've already shot, just so that this clip is not too long. But there are many factors going on. Not only that too, if we look here in the 2nd house, which again is a marker house, you see that the moon is there. Now the moon can also represent us. It certainly affects our emotions and how we think. But when we have aspects from Saturn to the moon, this is very significant. And we see here, planet Saturn currently has an aspect to the moon, but Boris also has the moon with Neptune. Now remember, I've said in earlier videos, Neptune is also a significant causer of disease, or cause, not causer, cause of disease. So we've got Moon and Neptune together being aspected by Saturn, and Saturn is the planet that is causing a lot of the restriction, and in fact a lot of the losses, unfortunately, when it comes to actual coronavirus. So this lineup in Boris's chart is compelling. And it is worrying. So I don't want to obviously want to scare people and stuff like that. But this is also why astrology is very, very significant. And it's just with Boris being in the Mahadasha that he's in. Let me just go back to the main screen and just show his chart. I'm just going to do this. I don't have time to make a little thing of it, but you'll see here. These are the Mahadashas. You'll see it says Venus, Mercury. These are what all the aspects look like here. So in the Navamsha, even in his Navamsha chart, which represents the 2nd half of life, the nodes are in Gemini and Sagittarius, but reversed. So he's actually having also having a nodal inversion, which is very, very significant. I don't know how well that is going to show. This is very off the cuff. I don't really have much time to be polished because the situation is unfolding. But this is a very worrying thing. Prayers go to Boris. I hope he's going to pull through. But this is a very challenging aspects that he has, because he's got a lot of planets kind of in for him right now. So anyway, I'll stop there. I'm going to attach it to the other video. If anyone's interested in consultations or anything like that, you can go to my website, which is the archetypalblueprint.com. I'll try and get that in on a graphic. Follow me on Instagram, Hogarth Brown, or on my Facebook, Hogarth Brown Author, or the archetypalblueprint.com on Facebook. If you want any more information there, please click and subscribe if you found this useful. I'm going to now attach this little video onto the other one that I made earlier on in the afternoon before I knew anything had happened with Boris. I wasn't expecting it to come this quick. Oh, and just another point as well, Mercury, just showing this piece of paper here, Mercury, which rules Boris Johnson's chart and his body, it becomes debilitated in Pisces on tomorrow, on the 7th of April 2020 at 08:59. So 1 minute before 9 a.m. Mercury also becomes debilitated globally. This is going to lead to a spike in a lot of stuff. I hope it's not going to mean it's going to be worse for the Prime Minister, but I just wanted to put that out there so that everyone understands what this means. I'm sorry this is not polished, no wings. I don't even think it's appropriate. Just have to get this out there and spread the message, and let's give our hopes and prayers to Boris Johnson that he pulls through this difficult time for him. Thank you.